Hello, everybody. My name is Jimena Santibáñez, and I live in Mexico City. I'm a social media consultant, and last week we experienced here in my city one of the biggest disasters we've had in the most recent years. Um, the reason I want to make this video is to share a little bit of what we lived last week and how social media really changed our lives and the way we responded to these disasters. I was also around in 1985 when we had another huge earthquake. And in those years, we experienced a total disconnection from the world after the earthquake. It took probably around 2 days for the world to really know what had happened here. And it was very, very difficult for us to face the destruction and the chaos that was going around at the time. The earthquake at that time left a lot of lessons. So now we have drills all the time so that we know how to get out of buildings and houses and face the threat of a earthquake because we don't really have a warning of when they're going to happen and how strong they're going to be. So we're pretty used to earthquakes, but this time we didn't have an alarm go off. Usually, what happens is that the earthquake alarm goes off, and you have about a minute to 5 minutes to get out of the building. In this particular earthquake, um, it happened very close to our city. It was not around the shore or the coast where we have the detectors for the earthquake. So we didn't have a time to respond. We actually heard the alarms as the earth was shaking. So that's why you see a lot of stuff going around in social media, showing people really not being able to get out of where they were. Um, so this was really chaotic, but we were very lucky because one of the things that happens after an earthquake is that regular telephone lines are not working. Sometimes, even if you try to make a call from your cell phone, you're not going to be able to go through. So, the only thing that we do have and that keeps working even after the earthquake is social media and Wi Fi connections. So, we are able to go into Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp and communicate with the people we know to let them know how things are. That's what happened this time too. After we had had a drill a couple of hours earlier to commemorate another huge earthquake, the one in 1985, and we were getting back to our normal routine when this real earthquake happened. And what happened right away is that everybody connected, everybody shared what was going on, and we started to notice all the damage going on around the city. This time, as a difference from 1985, the destruction was not in a general area. It was not downtown, it was not just in one region. It was in very many different areas and buildings and homes. So, what happened was that after the earthquake, we started sharing what was happening and we were able to respond right away. We were able to beat sometimes the civil protection authorities and the firefighters and the police because we were telling people what was going on right away. And there were so many different disasters that they were not able to get there fast enough. So everybody started helping. Everybody started removing stones and concrete and everything that was in the way of getting people out of the buildings. That's what you probably saw on social media and the news. Um, However, this was not the only thing that happened. Since we already have groups, whether it's in WhatsApp or Facebook, we started connecting and developing collection centers where we could get all the materials and all the things that were going to be needed, including places for people to concentrate so that they could offer their help. So everybody pitched in with whatever was in their hands, anywhere from shovels and tools to food, water, candy, so that people could keep their sugar levels up and keep working. Um, and it was really amazing. It was really heartwarming to see that everybody was pitching in and coming together. And social media was key for this because we are a society that is not very organized. Our government has lacked authority for a long time. So we need to pitch in and we need to take over sometimes. And this was one of those situations. Not in this case, not because the government didn't know what to do, but because the disaster was so big that they could not respond fast enough. They didn't have enough people. Even if they had wanted to respond in a different way, they wouldn't have been able. So we pitched in, we started organizing, and the next thing that happened was that we started trying to find people that we knew, making sure that everybody was safe. And social media was key on this particular way because you were able to connect right away and send to as many people as possible information about who was missing and where they had been seen last. Facebook and Google took a little bit longer to respond with their check-in options where you can say that you're safe or that you're in need of help or assistance of some sort. It took them probably 3 to 4 hours at least to start working. So we really relied on ourselves reporting that we were okay. Again, this was pretty good because with all the drills that we've had in the past and with previous earthquakes that were not as strong as this one, we always know that after an earthquake, you check in on Facebook. You just say, "I'm doing okay. It didn't feel so bad. I'm in such and such neighborhood," and that way we can assess what's going on around the city. So this time, the assessment showed not that we were okay, but that everybody needed help somewhere, and that's how we started organizing. Um, However, this thing that was awesome at the beginning started to become a big of an obstacle, a hurdle, and it was getting in the way of help. There was too much information. Some people were actually taking advantage of what was going on and started spreading false rumors. So we were dealing a different crisis now. We had a lot of information, but now we actually had to figure out what was truth and what was not. Again, since we don't usually rely on what the police or our government says, it took a lot of double checking and fact checking and making sure we knew someone who was working in one of the disaster areas to see for themselves if things were as the government was saying. Um, Sometimes they were not. Sometimes we actually had to push for things to happen through social media mostly. And sometimes we actually had to show up at the different places and make sure that things were taking the right pace and the right direction. So that was another way we responded. But as I said, there was a lot of information going on, and we really needed to figure out what was really urgent and what was really true. So we started developing something else. Now, every time we posted something, we started adding the day and the time we were asking for it. And here we came to a different thing. People sometimes don't know exactly how to use Facebook or Twitter, so they don't know that through Twitter you can denounce things and post the authorities that should be taking care of these things. They didn't know as well that you have to have a public setting on the post, not precisely on your account, but on the post that you're sharing so that everybody can see it. So what happened was that a lot of people just started copying and pasting, and there was no way to track the original poster. So we didn't know if the help was already there or if things were needed additional to what they mentioned or who we should contact once we got to the disaster area. So things got complicated. But if you do post and set your settings to public for that post, people can actually share it and then you can edit the post and make sure that you make the adjustments and say, okay, the help arrived, or we also need this thing, or it's been 3 hours and nobody has showed up, which was not a problem, by the way. There was an excess of help and assistance and supplies, and there were places where people said, please stop bringing water, just send it somewhere else. Um, so that started happening. We started to go through the information, sorting out what was urgent and what was taken care of. And we started to finally filter information, something we hadn't done in a long time in social media. We learned the hard way that you really need to figure out your sources. You really need to double check. You really need to think about what you're going to share and the consequences of what you're sharing. Again, like I said, we don't really rely on authorities and our politicians and government. So the other thing that we've been doing through social media is making sure that they're doing their job. Even though we are very active and we're very engaged and we're sending a lot of supplies and help ourselves and going there to the actual places that need them, sometimes we did send a lot of help. And the truck drivers or the operators that took the help actually reported that authorities were blocking the delivery of that help. So we are holding accountable the people who are supposed to be governing, um, but we do need to notice something else. Sometimes, as society, we want things to be solved fast, in our terms, and without any conditions or limitations. However, as a society, we're getting used to having quick responses all the time and having things going our way. And when you're dealing with disasters and civil protection and the military, you can't have it that way. And that's something that we need to learn. I mentioned this because one of the things that I work with is the social impact of digital devices and digital technology. And this is one of the ways we've been really hurt by digital technology. Everything is just ours and there by pushing a button. And when you go into disaster assessment, disaster management, you can't have things happen right away all the time. There are some things that require a method, some things that require waiting, some things that take time because it's a matter of life and death, really. And those who study how to deal with these things actually have procedures and routines and methods that take time, and we're not used to that. We want responses right away, and we want information, and we want things to happen. So we did struggle with that. We ran into that, um, but it's something else that showed us that we need to be patient, and we still need to wait for things to happen. Um, the other thing that is very important and that we've witnessed these days is that it's not just about social media. All the things that we've been able to do this past week or so have been because after you posted, after you shared, after you commented, after you were aware of what was going on through social media, we went out on the streets and we actually did things. We didn't just complain, we didn't just plan, we didn't just ask for help. We actually went out and helped. And this has been something that the millennial generation has been very criticized for, that they were just spectators, that they would just watch things and criticize things and not do anything. So this time they were really redeemed. We were really redeemed. We really pulled through, and I'm pretty sure that that experience is going to make a huge difference because we were not used to seeing the confrontations and the problems and the sadness and the frustration up front. We would always deal with that from behind a screen, and now it's been totally made our reality, our everyday, our walking through downtown or down every neighborhood that we used to know, and seeing homes being destroyed or being rebuilt, or people being found in the middle of um, just rubble. So that's the other thing that was very useful. The next thing that was very useful through social media was the connection with you guys, with everybody around the world that was able to pitch in and help. Anywhere from just broadcasting the information of what was going on and that we needed help, to sending brigades with dogs, with tools, with technology, to help us during this very, very worrying situation, and we really appreciate that. We're very, very thankful. So what's going on now? It's been roughly a week after the earthquake. We're still recovering people and remains from the rubble of buildings. We're still finding out how bad it was in different regions. There are many populations where we didn't know they've actually been hit. There were some towns and villages around the Mexico City, Puebla, Tlaxcala, Mexico State region that are really, really hurt and have a lot of houses that have come down. Um, and we didn't know it was that bad up until now because they had not had communication with people. They lost all services, water, electricity, cell phone reception, and we're now sorting out things and we're now trying to get to them and to assist in their recovery. So you will see that we are still working a lot. We will probably complain that help is not getting to the people who need it, but us as just regular people should be taking care of things and should be supervising that help goes to those who need it. We are taking over, we are taking charge, we're very much assuming control of those things, and the authorities have seen it. They have seen how we can actually team up with them and that we're not getting them out of the picture. This is not a case of anarchy or whatever. We do have to, however, push them to do things right. We have to supervise that help gets to the people who need it and that things are done the right way. And that the authorities and government use the money that they have to use to build roads and to provide them with services like water and electricity as soon as possible. There are some disaster zones and some disasters where you're not lucky enough to have power or to have cell phone reception. And we have seen that a lot recently with Puerto Rico and the islands of the Caribbean that have been affected by hurricanes. But we do need to be very aware that whoever can stay safe and provide them with those connections as soon as possible after the disaster, they should know that it's key that they are communicated, that social media is in place, that they can report that they're okay, that they can have access to Wi Fi or a computer or something of that sort. So I'm pretty sure that the way we're handling disasters is going to change a little bit now that we have these things, because it's not the same as in the past when you would only reach someone through their phone number. Now, all you need is to have a place where you can make sure that there will be an internet connection after a disaster, that will have power, and that will be able to provide people with connections to the outside world, to people who can help them and send them resources and send them people to rebuild, to assess damages, and to make things better again. So I've worked natural disasters in the past. I used to work in that branch. Now I work social media, and I've been blessed enough to see the outcomes of putting both things together in a good, healthy way and constructive way. We can really add up a lot with social media. It is very powerful, but it's not just powerful during disasters. It's one of the lessons that we should be learning from this is that the power of social media can help every single day. Every day, there's someone who needs food, there's someone who needs a job, there's someone who needs to broadcast some very important information about everything and anything. And we have the power with just one click, with just sharing something to make things better. Um, I do advocate for privacy in your social media accounts, but you need to learn how to change those settings when you need to share information. It's crucial to have real management of your social media, real understanding, real knowledge of how it works and why it works, and how you adjust settings and how you use your cell phone and how you can broadcast live and what is worth broadcasting live and what is not. Um, so I do encourage you to learn how to do that, how to use social media, how to use your phones wisely, when it's worth to activate your location, when it's not. It's not a game. It's awesome and it can be very entertaining. It connects people, but it also saves lives. We've witnessed that this week, and I hope this knowledge will help and empower all of you wherever you are in the world. I'm pretty sure you've had your share of either natural disasters or just social problems where you need to report you're okay and you need to report what's going on. So take it seriously. It's not a game. Don't joke around with it. If you're a teenager, it's not a funny thing to joke around about a disaster, about something that's going on that really requires attention, that is life threatening. Take it seriously. It's just as serious as calling the police and saying that there's no robbery. Um, so be very serious about social media. It was awesome and it was crucial for us this past week, and it will be a very important tool for all of us for the weeks and months to come. We're rebuilding a lot of things. And like I said, social media isn't magic. We do have to do a lot of things that require actually finding who didn't do their job and who actually gave false permits and who took advantage of things, who bribed officials. Those things, maybe social media can help us enforce them, but there's another process, there's a legal process. Social media is not magic, it's just another tool that we can use wisely if we are smart enough, or that we can use for harm and create commotion and create misinformation. And that is one of the cruelest things that I've seen this past week. Don't use it that way. You are actually playing with the feelings of a lot of people. So I hope this helps. I hope wherever you are in the world, you can learn a lesson from what we experienced. And thank you all for your support and your keeping an eye on us.